it's thinking,
Love
it's
it.
deciding, and
Will.
I think it's official.
Yay.
Yay! Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. We are live, and this is going to be a really fun conversation. Let me just do the tag so that people can find us.
Perfect.
We are live. Oops. And I am going to put this into the event.
Love how you know all the techie things to do. I do
You
not.
know, it um it wasn't always that way. And clearly there's still some days where it does not go as planned.
Oh, well, that is technology for you.
Yeah.
There is somebody else I was recording a podcast yesterday and there were so many tech issues. The person was like, is Mercury in retrograde? Which
Oh, right.
it wasn't, but something is happening
Yes.
with
Something.
technology.
I feel that. Okay, I put it there. I put it here. I see some eyeballs. I think yesterday or one day I didn't have it all the way open, so I missed a ton of comments. Okay, so we're gonna get started. Um, I am gonna pull up, set my screen, so I'm ready to roll.
Awesome.
Yay! Okay!
Hey, we're
Yay!
here.
I can like see your face front and center.
All right.
So, yes, thank you, Charity, for being here today. This is really exciting. Like, whenever I get to talk with you, I leave feeling so energized,
Oh,
and I just appreciate your warmth.
oh,
So,
well,
thanks for
thank
showing
you.
up.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I love every time we chat as well. So thank you so much for having me on and just for the gift of this community. It's a real gift to so many of us. So thank you.
Oh, amazing. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I heard a beep, so I want to make sure that I'm not beeping throughout. There we go. Sweet. So before we dive in and get into the good stuff, I just want to say this is our interview. I'm like prepping people who are joining us. If you're here, say hi in the chat. Tell us, where you're logging on from. And feel free at any point to like drop in a question or like if something resonates, put a emoji or whatever. And Charity's just so kind to kind of like share a bit of her story, of what it was like to start intensives and then what the process has been like over the years, as you're like finding how to, the way that I like to talk about it is like making a practice that feels good,
Mm,
right? And
mhm.
what felt good last year may not feel good today or 5 years ago or whatever. So we're always
So
all in this
true.
like constant loop of checking in and being like, how am I? How's this work going? What do I need?
Mm,
And the title that we went with is kind of showcases this like way that you've worked, which is we're seeing clients 2 weeks out of the month, right? And
yep.
then having 2 weeks where you're not seeing clients.
Yes, yes. And, as we're sitting here, I know you and I have chatted about this, that our practices do change all the time. And so what worked for me when I started intensive 6 years ago didn't work anymore a few years in. And that's when I changed to the two, every other week, two clients a month. And now I'm actually on a sabbatical for the first time ever because I decided that I actually needed an even more extended break. And just something I love so much about intensives is that they give us that flexibility. And
Mhm.
I love hearing from people in your community about all of the kinds of intensives they're doing and whether people want to work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or 2 months on, 2 months off, or anything they want. The sky is the limit with what we can do with intensives.
Yes, so good. And sometimes we need like a real person in front of us who's like, I did this. Doesn't mean you have to do it this way, but like there is a reality in which this is possible. You
Yeah.
know?
I saw in the event somebody commented, which I appreciated so much. I'd never even thought that that was possible. And, certainly there was a long time, many, many years before I switched to doing intensives where I never would have dreamed of some of the things that are possible. And so I do hope for anyone listening who is maybe just getting started or is just thinking about starting, just to know all of the options that are out there.
Oh, yes, so good. Well, why don't usually this is where we start. Why don't you just do like a little introduction of who you are and a little bit about the work you do? And we'll probably start like chronologically, like what got you interested in intensives way back in the beginning.
Love it. So if we really went way back to the beginning, we would go back to when I was an undergrad. And when
Ooh.
I heard about therapy for the very first time, I was 17 years old. I didn't know therapy existed. And, I went to therapy for the first time. It was free through my university counseling center. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Where has this been my whole life? As a person who experienced lots of childhood trauma, I definitely needed a lot of therapy. And I loved it, but also I didn't like it. I didn't like I didn't like the format. I didn't like this like hour a week kind of cold clinical setting format. And so you know how 17-year-olds are. I was like, I could do this better.
I love it. Let's hear it.
Before I knew the first thing about being a therapist. Hilarious. But what I did know back then, and what I have continued to trust, all the way these 25 years later, is that my body and my nervous system are what tell me what is right and what I need. And so even back then, they knew my body needs to be more engaged in this process. I wish we could be outside on a beautiful day, walking and talking. I wish we could be doing yoga because I had sort of accidentally discovered yoga and how healing it was. I wish we could be just in a more comfortable setting where I'm like a big tea drinker. I always have a cup of warm tea. Like I just want, something cozy to comfort me through this process. So I said to myself, when I'm a grown up, and I'm a therapist, I'm going to work in this way. I'm going to work in a retreat setting. I'm going to have people come where there's nature and there's yoga and there's tea. And if we fast forward a whole bunch of years, that is what now do. But there was a long time in between where that was not what I was doing. And I actually ended up, I think as so many of us do, I graduated grad school. I ended up working in community mental health. I was in a nonprofit for over 15 years, and I loved it. I loved the work that I did. I was at a rape crisis center. It was incredibly valuable work, and it burnt me out so badly that I seriously did just about die. I had so many medical things happen, so many mental health things happen. It was really, really traumatic. And so I think, like many of us, when COVID lockdown happened, I said, I finally have enough space because I went from working, I was on call 24 hours a day, being woken up in the middle of the night to go to the emergency room to respond to SANE exams, to go do death notifications for homicide victims in our county, like really difficult stuff where I slept with a work bone underneath my pillow for years and was getting up to do these things, is in addition to doing my clinical work and in addition to eventually being the clinical supervisor of the department, was doing all this wild stuff. And so I just had enough space during lockdown to
Mhm.
say, what about that dream that I had had? And to come back to it. And I had never given up on the dream. When my husband and I were looking for a home to buy, we bought a home where there was a separate house on the property, a little cottage. And at that time, I thought I would be at the nonprofit until I retired. And so it was just, okay, well, one day I'll be able to turn that into a retreat space that I had dreamed about so long ago to invite clients into. And it happened so much sooner than I had thought, although so much later than I had thought at the same time. So, about 6 years ago now, I just totally transitioned my practice to that practice that I had always dreamed about. And around the same time, I happened to be, no, I don't believe in accidents, but I happened to be in an advanced EMDR training. For any EMDR therapists out there, you have to get your EMDRIA CEUs every year. So I was in one of those trainings, and it happened to be with Dr. Ricky Greenwald, who I know is in this group, and I highly recommend his trainings. And he mentioned intensive therapy. And I thought, that's it. That's what I will do. I will merge together retreats and intensive therapy. And that's what I started doing. And I've never looked back. Although, as we've said, and as I'm happy to talk about more, it's evolved a lot in that time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love when you hear people talk about, like, I knew this, like, this is what I wanted so many years prior. And it's like, it's not like it was a linear, you know,
No.
like road, but it came to be.
Yes. Yes. And I'm so grateful for that every day. And I know there are people listening who are still on that long, arduous pathway and maybe stuck in places they'd rather not be stuck. And don't give up on the dream because it does happen. It does happen.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. Hmm. I'm doing what you were just naming, like checking in with my body, checking in with my intuition, trying to feel into where we should go next. We had a plan, we have a structure, but we're vibing.
Absolutely. Just like
Similarly to the intensive, right?
yes,
There's always a parallel process.
it really is.
Is there You're so kind to acknowledge folks who are like, that's so beautiful and really cool. And I feel like that doesn't match up with where my life is right now. And so, were there moments, or could you speak maybe a little bit into moments where it felt like that for you? Like either doubts that came up or discouragements and kind of what those moments looked like.
Definitely. And of course, all of our journeys will be so different in so many ways. But so I'm a big New Year's resolution intention setting person. I love manifesting and all the woo-woo things. So I looked back at my journals when I finally started the intensive practice, and every year for 5 years, I had said, this year I will leave the nonprofit. I really will do it this year. And then the end of the year would come, and I would look back and be like, I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I was, I'm an IFS therapist as well. And so I was talking to my parts about that during that journey and, having so much compassion for them that there were really good reasons why I couldn't do it. I mean, I think for so many of us, fear of changing our lives, our practices is so huge. I think guilt, I mean, guilt for me was enormous. I'm an Enneagram 2, if anybody's familiar with the Enneagram, and really felt like I had to stay and do the hard thing. For my agency. And so I struggled so much with both guilt and fear, not just for those 5 years, but again, for those 5 years, it really was my intention. I'd planned to do it and
Yeah.
just could not do it until, again, lockdown gave me a little bit of space to think about it. So there were so many moments, not just of discouragement, but I would say of despair, moments where I was like, I will never be able to break out of this. I see it every single year, how much I want to, how much I need to, how much my body needs me to. My body is breaking down and I still can't do it. I will say, and this is not going to be the same for everyone, but once I did it, and I took the leap. I was just like, I'm doing it full time, only intensives, no weekly clients, all of that.
Mhm.
From then, I have really never looked back, and I hear this a lot, and I'm sure you do too, from the therapists I do consultation with. Intensives change everything for our clients and for us. And so while my journey to actually starting my intensive practice was incredibly painful, and there were so many times I thought I would never ever make it, and again, I'd had that dream since I was 17. Um, Once I started it and saw the transformative power, I could never go back. I could never go back to weekly therapy. And I hear it from consultees all the time, and I know you advise people the same thing, like just try it. Try it. Try it. If you've got private practice already, try it with one client. If you don't have private practice, so while I was still at the nonprofit, I took some PTO and I did an
Yes.
intensive with somebody just to try it, just to see.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, that's it. I'm giving my notice. I'm leaving because working in this way is so transformative again for the clients and for us. It's completely changed my life, but it's completely changed the lives of all of the people that I've worked with too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, right? Like you don't have to have all your ducks in a row. You don't have to have this like grand plan, but just let yourself experience it. And sometimes that's when the things start to click and you're like, okay, now I'm like in motion.
And that's what happened for me, but also sometimes I'll consult with somebody who will do that and they'll be like, "Oh, actually it's not for me." And that's great too,
Oh,
because we
yes.
do like just listening to our bodies, listening to our nervous systems. Like if you don't try it, then you won't know. So I just
Yeah.
always recommend that people, if they have an existing client that they could try it with, or maybe even if they don't and they have to find that first client that they could try it with, that's how you'll know. It was a full body yes for me. It's
Oh,
continued to be a full body yes for me. But there are certainly people who sometimes, or not everybody works. I do a 5 day, 6 hour a day intensive, so I'm with somebody for 30 hours. That's certainly not for everybody. And so I've had other people who try it and they're like, you know what, this is not for me. 3 hours is for me,
yeah.
or every other day, or one day a week, or there's again, the sky's the limit with the options. But if you don't try and you don't listen to your body and you don't get that information from your nervous system, then you won't know if it's for you.
Oh, I love that. I know we probably talked about this, but I'm a 3 hour, three days in a row. Like I just love it. But same thing, like I didn't know that until I tried lots of different, options to be like, oh,
Exactly.
this fits, this feels like I was gonna say like home. Oh, but
Yeah,
it feels good to me. Yeah.
exactly. And there's so many people who try it and then they're like, I do love this, but I also still love weekly therapy. That wasn't
Yeah.
me. I was like, I don't like weekly therapy anymore. I just want to do intensives. But I know so many people having really beautiful intensive practices where they do weekly therapy and then they do an intensive maybe for some trauma processing or maybe for some other work that needs to be done. And then they go back to weekly therapy. It's limitless options that we just have to.
Right.
I feel like I got really lucky that the first thing I tried was what I loved, but part of that is because it's what I dreamed of for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wasn't the case. So I made the horrible mistake, which everyone please do laugh at me, of when I first started my intensive practice of doing an intensive every week.
Oh, yeah,
I,
that's tough.
I, I did a 5 day intensive every week for 3 years. I took a couple vacations. But to me, that was so much easier than I had been at the nonprofit. Like my nervous system, I don't think
Yeah.
could have, it's like when we have like graduate student interns and they graduate and go from 100 miles an hour to zero and get that whiplash. Like,
Yes.
I don't think my nervous system could have sustained that kind of whiplash. So
Mhm.
I needed kind of the gradual, like for me, a 5 day intensive every week for 3 years was the gradual decline that I needed. But at some point, probably about 2 years into that, I realized, oh, this is not a good fit for me anymore. I have to pull it back. And that's when I pulled it back to every other week. And I've been doing that for about 3 years now.
Oh.
But I'm so open to, on this sabbatical, who knows? Who knows what my nervous system and my body will tell me that I need next. I'll be listening.
Oh. I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. So now what your intensives look like are these like 5 day experiences. They're retreat focused in your cottage, which I love. So
Yeah.
good. You do EMDR. I'm sure you integrate lots of things. You mentioned IFS. Um, was that what it looked like in the beginning?
Yeah, so just for me, IFS informed EMDR is the modality that changed my life the most and that I just love practicing as a therapist. So, yep, that is what it looked like in the beginning. I do incorporate a lot of body modalities. I do trauma sensitive yoga. I just like I had dreamed of, the cottage is in nature. There's a creek running through the yard. We're in the woods. So we get to go outside a lot if the person wants to and just really, be in nature. We can walk along the river across the street. There's just a lot of beautiful somatic work that can be done. That is still what I love. But I just recently trained in a new modality. I haven't trained in a new modality in like forever, but this one really piqued my interest. So who knows? Maybe that'll be included.
Yeah.
I was listening to your live yesterday and hearing everybody's different, very cool modalities. So again, we can switch it up if we want to. But what I love personally is the client, they fly in, they're here usually Monday through Friday. I do IFS informed EMDR with them through the day, so 6 hours. And then in the evening, I have this whole wonderful assortment of body workers who come work with people so they can do Reiki, they can do sound therapy, they can do massage. Most people choose massage.
Mhm.
So it just is a good way to really care for their body at the end of the day. And then they can soak in the hot tub under the stars if they want, or sit by the wood stove. And, again, I really just dreamed up the practice and the setting that I wished I had had. And honestly, I still
Yeah.
wish I had it. I'm always like, who else is working in this way? You can comment and tell me if you are, because I will come when I, when I,
Yes, exactly. Oh my
'cause,
gosh.
yeah, I really just designed the practice I wanted. And that's those are the people then that find me. It's not the way everybody wants to have therapy, but the people who want it that way are the people who find me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I have two questions. I'm like, you choose which pathway we go down. Part of me is like, so now that you like this is the way the practice is set up, like what has that shifted in you or what has that made possible? Okay, let's just go there.
Everything, Stephanie. Oh my gosh. So my other dream that was a much older dream than this, from the time I was 4, I said I was going to write books and be an author. And that dream came true from this. I published one book already. My second book that I co-wrote with my husband about ADHD is going to be released in August. And then I also have a fiction book in the works. And believe me when I say, when I was in community mental health, it was not possible. I couldn't even think about those kinds of things. And so
Yeah.
working this way has given me the spaciousness to pursue other life dreams, travel, being much more attuned to my body in the ways that I know are supportive of my body and giving it the care that it needs. So I feel like what hasn't it opened up? I wake up every day just feeling so fortunate that this is the way in which I practice and the spaciousness that it's given me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I feel it. It's so good. What do you think? Um, what do you, this is, my brain is buffering this question.
While it buffers, I saw that somebody asked in the
Oh
chat
yes,
modality was.
yes.
So this is going to sound wild, okay? It is an EMDR modality called induced after death communication.
Oh,
Yes, so it is for anybody out there who's IADC trained, it is a way that you use EMDR to process sadness related to grief. It could be the loss of a person, of a pet, or even of a situation.
huh.
And you use the power of EMDR to resolve not just the sadness, but also kind of the unsaid things, the things that you wish you had been able.
Oh,
So it's very, very cool. And I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to do with it, but really I did the training because of my own life experiences and I thought it was awesome. So thanks for asking that question.
yes.
If anybody else is IADC trained, you should definitely tell us.
Wow, that sounds
Somebody else
amazing.
Somebody else was asking which weeks of the month I see people. So I actually just schedule out my whole year in advance. I think a lot of intensive therapists do that because it's then I can like plan things like travel in a sabbatical. So it's not always every other, it's usually every other because that's just better for my nervous system. But sometimes with
Sure.
travel, I'll need to do like 2 in a row and then I'll take 4 weeks to travel or things like that. But for me, what helps is just planning out the year in advance.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And, even when I had a hybrid practice where I saw some clients, like did weekly clients on some weeks and intensives on some weeks, it just helps to plan either the full year ahead or like go quarter by quarter and be like, this is going to be my intensive week. And, then when people reach out, it's already
Yeah, you know what you can.
defined. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're
Yeah,
making sure you're caring for you, not overloading yourself, because that's easy to do when you're like excited about something new.
Let me just say, as an Enneagram 2, I really learned the hard way when I went to every other week. I have to literally block out the off weeks on my calendar because at first I was offering, people would be like, I really need to get in. And I'd be like, I have a free week. Come on in. And then I found myself just doing the same thing where I was actually seeing people every week. So now I'm a paper planner person. I like scribble out the week. Like this week
Yeah.
does not exist. And I do other things on the week. I'm not sitting around on the beach. I mean, sometimes, but I do a lot of consultation. I run groups. Obviously have administrative things to do. It's not like I'm not working, but I don't see any clients. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a different type of work too. Like it uses a different part of our brain and our nervous system and yeah, parts of
exactly.
ourselves that need a little breath.
I don't have to do my hair. I don't have to get dressed. Like,
Yes, that's a big deal. I love it. I am oh, this is great. I'm looking at the comments here.
yeah, I see we have an IADC person. Yay.
Woohoo!
That's
That's
awesome.
amazing. I
Jenny,
can see
yay.
that totally being in demand.
Yeah,
Like
it's cool.
I know this is a question that comes up a lot whenever I'm talking with people about intensives and definitely about like an intensives only model of practicing. And I'm sure you get this question, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Is kind of like, then does that mean that you have like new clients coming in and out all the time?
All
And
the
like,
time.
how does that feel for you? Or how do you like make those connections so that you can book a totally new client every other week?
Yeah, I mean, it feels great to me. I love it. All of my clients are brand new clients, and I do joke with my consultees like maybe don't use this business model because it's not actually a sustainable business model. Like I put myself out of a job every single week. And I love it. I love it so much. But I really respect that a lot of people don't want to do that model just because they don't, I mean, even if they like the idea clinically, that they don't want to have a new stranger every time coming. So I really get that. But for me, it works super duper well. And I really like my clients. So I like staying in touch with them after. Most of them stay in touch, like they'll keep me updated about how life is going. I don't typically see them again for therapy. Occasionally, somebody will come back for like a booster. But they've come, from very far away often. And so it's not common for somebody to return for an intensive. But they do stay in touch. So I don't feel like relationally, we lose anything. But again, that might totally be anti other people's. They might be like, I don't ever want to have contact again, or I do want to have contact. I want to do smaller, shorter form intensives where I have ongoing contact with.
Yeah. Ooh, interesting. I was gonna say, because of the 3 hour format, I would have people cycle back around, not very often, but maybe like within 6 months or a year later, they'll reach out again. Or so I could totally see if you're doing a full week,
Yeah,
that's gonna the follow-up piece would probably look really different.
yes,
And
definitely.
how do you feel like you're like people are hearing about you or that you're like making folks aware of what you offer?
Yeah, so this is, listen, going to be a big letdown to everybody. And so I'm going to tell you, reach out to Stephanie. Stephanie is the marketing guru. People all the time are like, how do you market? I've never marketed in my life. I don't market. I was really, really fortunate to start doing intensives before almost anybody else was doing intensives. And for the past many years, everybody I've seen is directly connected to somebody else I've seen. So it's
Ah,
seen entire families at this point, multi-generational families. I only work with adults. In this model, I don't feel like there's any dual relationship issues because they come for their 5 days, they're done, and then they send all of their friends and family members. So I am not the person to come to for marketing. Stephanie is the person to go to how to market your intensive.
but
And
I'm
if you,
like, there's some data here, right? Like there's a case study, which what that tells me is once you're known and people have experienced your work, it speaks for itself, and then that ripple continues to grow. So it may not be the same for someone who's starting an intensive in 2026 because you can find lots of intensives online. But once you do make those like initial connections and have those initial sessions, like you can't stop the spread of like, you know, the word spreading because people have really unbelievably powerful experiences.
Exactly. It's unbelievably powerful and it really does snowball. I mean, the snowball effect is huge. There are times, many times where I have to just say, no, I cannot take you. And people will say, but my family member told me like you're the person I need to see. And I'm saying, like, I'm
Oh.
sorry, but like I can fit you in a year. Here are some other people that you can see. Because I take like 20 clients a year. So that's the other thing about an
Yeah.
intensives only practice is that you're actually not seeing very many people.
Oh, that's so interesting. I just got this like visual in my mind because if someone's like, "Oh, I see 25 clients a week." Well,
Yes.
that's still the same number of clients. It's just
Yes.
you're seeing them, you're spreading that same number over the span of a year. So it's not like you're actually working with more people. I
No.
think that's a really big misconception.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to clear that up then. Yeah, I have a
No.
fairly small, actually kind of tiny caseload. It's just that I see them for a
Yeah.
really intense period of time.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. And I do think there's something that you said earlier, and I'm curious, people who are in the chat, like if you relate to this. I also really prefer, like strongly prefer, to work with new people for a short period of time and then it's done.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would have never known that because I don't know, that's not how you're taught to do therapy.
No,
But I would
exactly.
often find myself pretty bored
Yeah.
after a couple months with someone. Like we may still like I love them. They're fabulous. We have a
Yeah.
great relationship, like doing good work. Maybe it's the ADHD brain, you know, but being able to like operate in a way that makes sense for me, like you're saying, for my body, for my brain.
Same.
Um,
Yes, exactly. For me, it's that I love trauma processing. I love trauma processing. I will trauma process all day, every day. And so, I know you've shared with people in some of the lives this week about how like you can communicate to other therapists. I'm not going to steal your client. And
yeah,
with intensives, that's so true. I do not want to have any follow-up. I want people to tell me how they're doing. They can check in with me, but I'm not going to do any therapy outside of the intensive because what I love to do as a therapist is trauma processing. I don't want any of that ongoing life stuff that's so important for weekly therapy. And so for people who are still like deciding, do I want to do intensives? Do I want to do intensives only? Do I want to do a blend? If you love the ongoing life stuff, then weekly therapy is so important for the ongoing life stuff.
yeah.
It,
Yeah. And I really do think that for the majority of people, a hybrid practice with both weekly and intensives is probably the most sustainable, you know, the lowest risk, right? Like you have your bread and butter people that you see maybe on week 2 and 4 or on Mondays and Tuesdays or whatever it is, and then do your intensives at the end of the week or those off weeks.
yeah.
But you know, being in a like a session where you're doing the things of life, like that also uses a different part of our brain. And some people may enjoy that or you know, you can like show up in a different way.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Or you can write books or work at Starbucks
yes.
if you love coffee. Like you can do whatever you want.
Yes, yes. I'm thinking of so many people who are like um, you know, my kids are settling down and I'm going to be a grandparent, so I want to have days that I can just be be grandma or you know, have young kids. I'm only thinking of kid related examples, but you know what I mean, like other passions. And I have said this before, but it kind of makes sense. Like I didn't intensive design lab wouldn't exist without my intensives because there's no way I could do this without
Right.
having like that time. It literally wouldn't
Exactly.
be possible. So when people are like, "Ooh, I really want to like do more trainings, I want to do more consultations, I want to do like your creativity is leading you other places." But you still want to do clinical work. It's such a
Yeah.
good it's such a good balance.
I think so. I do want to answer the question in the chat because this is like the most common question that I get about
Ooh.
working in the retreat model, which is like how it would work with Airbnbs. And I highly recommend that. I have a lot of consultees who do that successfully. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that while this was my dream since I was 17 and I did it, there are some real issues with hosting clients. And I would say I've not ever come close to burning out from intensives clinically, but I have come really close to burnout because of the hosting piece. And so
Mm.
I kind of wish sometimes that I was using an Airbnb or a model like that. And there's also so much like liability insurance that I have to have and like all of that kind of stuff that if you're thinking about a retreat model, there are a lot of people doing that beautifully. Morgan Levine, who's in this group, does that really beautifully. And I think that's probably a better model than mine, to be honest.
Well, I'm the same way. Like I don't want to be in charge of like the space or the food. Like all that stuff just really stresses me out. But if someone could get like yeah, pick their own Airbnb and you do the sessions in the living room or they get a hotel suite and you can meet with them there or be in nature.
Yes,
Like that is less, it's easier to start in those places than to like
exactly.
prepare your own property
Yeah.
for a
Oh
client.
my gosh. And like, God bless my poor husband who does so much like shoveling of snow and mowing of grass and like on a really short turnaround, like these are things that you don't have to worry about with an Airbnb. Leslie DeGraff, who's in this group as well, she is going to be partnering with a spa. I
Ooh,
mean, so many cool things that you can do.
yes. Oh, I love that. Amazing. Okay, I'm checking in the chat. If you're here live and you have questions, you're like, Charity, I want to hear you talk about this. Drop it in. Um, okay, this is the question you just asked that I'm looking at. And we had questions, but I got logged out of my account,
Oh,
so they're not in front of me at the moment.
I can see
Um,
questions. I have them. But I love the wait, did I disappear from your video? Because
no, no, you're here.
yeah, I love the casual conversation. So,
Yeah.
you asked if there were like hesitations around pricing, demand, feeling qualified. I mean, that's a great topic.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You asked who tends to say yes to this kind of work.
Right, because you're seeing clients 2 weeks a month, but
Yep.
obviously you're still earning what you need.
Oh yeah. I
And
mean,
so, what did the pricing look like when you sat down to make that change?
yeah, so I'm going to refer back to being an Enneagram 2 here and say that it took me the good like first year of working in this way to actually charge what my time and energy were worth. And I have increased my rates pretty much every year until last year. Now I feel good about where I've landed. I think it's good to talk about pricing. I charge $2,000 a day. So most people pay $10,000 for a 5-day intensive. That does include the lodging at my retreat space and it does include food. So I know, there are plenty of people charging more than that just for clinical work. There are plenty of people charging less for that. But it took me a long time to get there. And what for me is the most important about pricing, well, actually, first let me just say that my first intensive, the one that I like trialed out, I had private practice on the side while I was at the nonprofit, and so I did it with one of my private practice clients on the side. When I took some PTO, I charged her $400 a day. So, we all start wherever we're comfortable, and that
Yeah.
is what I felt like I could reasonably charge. So if you're really struggling with the financial piece, I really get it. But what ultimately has been the most important thing for me is to decide what is the rate that I will not become resentful of this client being here with me because I want to step in every single day with them joyfully, excitedly, and not for 1 minute thinking, they're not paying me enough for this.
Hmm.
So for
Hmm.
me, the number that I currently have landed on is $2,000 a day. Is $2,000 a day. That could change in the future, but right now that's the number. That number is going to be different for everybody. Everybody has different life demands. Everybody has a different system. Everybody has different, expenses, obviously. But for me, the question really is, what is the number that allows me to fully be present with this client without a single drop of resentment and wishing that they were paying me more?
Wow, I love that. That's beautiful.
It is everything to me is about being nervous system led. And I can
Yeah.
feel it. If I walk in and I'm resentful for any reason, it changes the work. And money is part of that.
Yeah. Oh, this is so interesting. Sorry, I'm always adding my little how this is integrating with me. Um, I like the nervous system side of like how can I show up without it a drop of resentment. And I've also been hearing in other spaces, not necessarily therapist spaces, but like how how can I price to where it's not exceeding the limit of what my nervous system can hold? You know,
Yes.
if we pick a price that feels really out of alignment for us or elicits like a fear response, then that's also a form of sabotage, like overpricing
You're
or
right.
underpricing.
Either way, you're so
Yeah.
right. And I think a lot of therapists do kind of, I don't want to say make that mistake, but that happens when they're experimenting early on because there's a lot of stuff online where people are like, you have to charge this, you have to charge that. And so they do end up with a number that they don't feel comfortable telling people. And
Mm.
if you don't feel comfortable telling people that number, then you are not going to be getting intensive clients signed up for an intensive.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked with lots of therapists who talk themselves out of telling a client about an intensive because they are scared of
Yeah.
whatever it is. It could be the number, it could be the clinical piece, it could be the being with a client for X number of time. But yeah, you're so right. Our nervous system has to really feel aligned for us to start making the offer. And again, my first offer was $400 a day, and that's what felt good. And here I am now, 6 years later. This is all I do. I absolutely love it. I've arrived on a number that feels currently good to me. You can change it as many times as you want, which is the
Yes.
thing about intensive practice is that you can change your policies, you can change your fee, you can change your structure, and everybody is new, so they don't actually know.
I
They,
love that. Oh my gosh. Right, like it's totally okay. Aw, yeah, amazing. Amazing. Um, checking the chat one more time. They're not paying me enough for this. So good. Who
I'll
would you?
tag the person partnering with the spa, but yeah, for website and design and marketing, well, I recommend Stephanie for marketing. I
I'm
really
like, we
do.
can talk.
If you
We can
haven't watched the replay yet of yesterday's hot seat call with Stephanie, it is incredible. And she's going to do another one. So get on there because she just has so many great ideas. And you do marketing consulting, right?
Yeah, yeah. Surprise. I don't know how this happened, except that I think it really is like just something that's innate in me. Is that I really enjoy the process of marketing. And I would never say that term, but
Yep.
more like connecting, like
Yes.
making that connection between like the ooey gooey goodness of what's inside a therapist and those like really sensitive things that clients are like, I really need someone who can be in this with me.
I'm just
Um,
so glad you're in this space, Stephanie, because most therapists, myself certainly included, do not live well at that intersection. And I really, with all my heart, people do recommend Stephanie for marketing stuff. And you have a mastermind coming up as well, right? Will that be about
yeah,
marketing?
yeah, it will. That's
There you
like
go.
exactly. I'm so pumped. Thank
Yes.
you. Thanks for
Yes.
shouting that out.
I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. So join Stephanie's marketing mastermind. What is it called?
Yeah, I have a marketing like master class that's like a like the foundations of marketing, like your intensives. But the like new mastermind that's coming is for therapists who like they're like, yeah, I want my practice to be intensives focused. And so that has to do with like our identity and how we show up in our practice. It has to do with how we market.
Yeah.
It has to do with our like money mindset and our nervous system. So
Which
all the
I
things.
having somebody who is a therapist practicing in this way, also helping you with your marketing is invaluable because I think about, so 70% of therapists are women, and I'm in your group all the time, and most of the people in the group are women. Of course, there might
Yeah.
be some in here right now. You're totally welcome too, genders of all kinds, but women mostly are who are in the therapy space, and women, m- our nervous system doesn't do well with the marketing stuff that's taught in like very male-dominated spaces. And so I think
Yeah.
having somebody who is actually a therapist and gets our struggles with just not selling in the same way that somebody does if they're selling, I don't know, a product that's behind me on my shelves, it's totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And I'm like, this is a side note, then I'll bring us back to the path. But I've gotten really obsessed with like embodiment focused marketing,
I
intuitive focused marketing. I
about
tried
that.
out a new training at this retreat we just did, and it was amazing. So I
Like
can't
you
wait to
taught
like,
the training?
yeah, I taught on it at the
Oh
training,
my
at the Presence
gosh.
of Possibility. That was the one with Barbara. She handled it.
Yes.
And it
Oh, she's
was awesome. And I was like, I think this is how I've always approached marketing, but now I'm actually putting words on it.
Words, yeah. And
So,
then
like
giving back.
formalizing it.
I've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
heard the term embodied marketing, but now I'm going to use it all the time.
Yes, and it really is what you were saying about like the intensive practice, but towards marketing. Like, what
Mm,
is my like checking in with my body? What is
yeah.
it that I want to say? How is it that I want to show up? What do I want people to feel when they're experiencing me, online or in, however they experience you in your like marketing. So, so good.
Yes. Oh, can't wait.
I know. I'm like that's the way to do it. Okay, checking in, recentering, coming to the chat.
Somebody asked when and where is the marketing class. I'm sure you could like comment on that later in the.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's one that's like on demand always, and then we're gonna like deepen it in the summer. Because
Ooh,
I always love doing marketing things in the summer. It just feels like the right time. Like you
yeah,
actually have space
that's cool.
to do that.
Yeah.
So
I
anyway,
also, speaking of nervous system stuff, I love aligning things like seasonally, and summer is like the time of like growth. Things are blooming, and so that really pairs well with marketing too.
ooh, right?
That's
You're ready to
like
like shine and
yes,
be
instead of like
seen.
winter hibernation.
Yes. Ooh, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we've covered a lot.
I could literally talk about it all day, all week. Let's just 24-hour live stream here.
Right, right. This is what's happening in our brains.
Yes.
Um, I think I think where I want us to, we're coming in for a landing. So if you have final comments or questions in the chat, we invite you. And if you're watching the replay, you can always put a question and tag me or Charity. Um, I think I think what I want to ask is for, ooh, first I was gonna say, like what do you want to share with people who are watching this at like various stages of their like intensive journey? And then but I think I want to shift it just a little bit to be like, what if you were looking back on you
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
a earlier stage of your journey, like what would you want to say?
Well, the first thing I would say to myself is go to an intensive sooner.
Ooh, like personally be the
Personally,
client.
personally, which
Yeah.
actually I did do before I changed my practice radically, because I felt like if I'm gonna ask people to do 5 days of trauma processing, I need to know what it's like to do 5 days of trauma processing. So I
Yeah.
did, I went to Ricky Greenwald's organization, TICT, and I did an intensive there. And it was incredibly transformative. But I actually mean way earlier in my life. I mean, I didn't know it was a thing. I went to an intensive pretty much as soon as I found out it was a thing. But I look back at younger Charity and I send her so much love and compassion, but I also think about those 17 years that she spent in active trauma. Not my childhood trauma, sure, that too, but as a professional, as a trauma therapist in active trauma, um, giving way too much, being exploited, quite frankly, being completely exploited, having medical things that I still am having to deal with to this day that started because of that kind of setting.
Mhm.
The burnout is not even the word for it. And if I'd known an intensive was a thing back then and I'd gone to one, I do wonder if I might have had the spaciousness
Yeah.
to be able to say, okay, I really am going to leave. I'm going to leave a decade sooner than I left, or maybe even just a few years. And I'm not a person who ever regrets experiences that I've gone through because I do believe that they've shaped me and they shape me as an empathetic clinician and they shape me as a friend and they shape me in all of those ways. But I wish I'd done the kind of healing that can happen in an intensive sooner.
Mhm. I
But
love
once I started working in this way, I mean, I hope this isn't hubris. I don't know if I'd change anything because while I
Mhm.
did do too much of it at first, I do think that was what my nervous system needed at the time. So I would just
Yeah.
say to younger Charity then, just keep listening to your nervous system. And I'm doing that right now on my sabbatical. I'm
Aw.
gonna hopefully keep doing that and keep making whatever shifts and changes are needed. I mean, maybe we'll have to have a recap post sabbatical and I'll tell you any changes that have happened because I really don't know. I'm just so curious about where is my nervous system going to lead me next and what do my parts need from me next. So TBD.
It's so beautiful. Like I know that's the work you like guide your clients into. and like it's the work that you're doing in you. And
Yeah.
I think that is that's not always a given.
Mm,
Sometimes we're so wrapped up in like get the kids here, do this at my practice, get this client, make this money or whatever. And it's like, oh, I've forgotten my body. I've forgotten, you know what I mean? And
mm,
so to be like, I am I am actively living this same thing that I walk my clients through.
yeah,
Like it's it's all, I'm pick like it's all in flow.
it is. And, I do think there's something about working intensively that you don't have any place to hide as the clinician.
Ah.
And that might freak some people out. You might be like, okay, never mind, and that's okay. But I do think working intensively has made me have to have such integrity personally and professionally.
Ooh.
Like I can't hide
Ooh.
behind our session's at the end today. So if I'm not in a good place and I really just need to wrap this up, or if I have no idea where to go next, nope, we're together all day, every day for multiple days. And yeah, it makes me have to really be in integrity, which I value tremendously about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know
yeah.
if you step
Ooh,
intense.
I'm like, this is a whole other training which we should totally
Yes.
talk about. But I do feel like it made me have to, like what you're saying, like it honed certain skills to be able to say, like, what's happening in this moment. Like, oh,
Definitely.
something just changed.
Yes.
Are we like I'm feeling like we should lean into that. How does that feel for you? Or, oh, actually, no, why don't we go out in nature and do this? Whereas in weekly therapy, yeah, it's happening so fast. I mean, that hour is just, I mean, some hours feel really long, but it can go by so fast. And,
Yeah,
it doesn't always require maybe the depths of skills clinically that you like actually could be swimming in.
right. Exactly. It's not always an invitation into that, whereas an intensive is such an invitation into deepening clinical skills. Yeah, it sparked another thought that now my perimenopausal brain has forgotten.
Right. It'll come back. It'll come back
Totally.
at a hilarious moment.
Exactly, exactly. Oh, I think it was about, that's you were asking like what would I share with listeners, and it would be to listen deeply to our own nervous systems and our own bodies, and that does include what's happening in your session. That we get so much information in our own in intensive sessions that we're the therapist, obviously also when we're the client, but we get so much information that is so important for us, for our parts. I don't think there's anything more important to be a healthy human being than just to keep listening to our
Yeah.
nervous systems.
Oh, I love it. Thank
Mm.
you so much for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Stephanie. Thank you for having me. I love it. Love chatting with you.
Yeah, it's a gift to look into your world, and I just appreciate it. If you're in the chat and you've enjoyed this or taking something away from it, please give Charity some love and thanks. And yeah, just honored to have you in our community.
Oh, thank you. And I do see there were some questions that came in that we didn't get to, and
Oh,
so share with people that I will answer them later today when I get a chance to get back on Facebook. I'll
yay!
answer them in the
Awesome.
comments.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And we are gonna wrap up here. I'm always like thinking of therapists who are like, oh, you might have a session at the top of this next hour. So we'll give
100.
you space to do what you need to do, meet your physical needs and whatnot. And I just want to say tomorrow is the final session of Connect the Dots.
Yay! Oh, it's Friday already. Oh
I
my
know. Can you believe it?
no.
So we're looking at like how do you actually design your intensive? Like what does it look like to start? And I'm going to be walking you through this the 3D framework to launching your intensives of like here it is, step by step. So you can kind of get a concept and say, okay, how do I feel like do I feel good on this area? Do I need any support here, there? We're gonna walk through it all.
Oh,
So
that's
that's happening tomorrow at 12 Eastern.
I think I just saw somebody asking about that in the group, so I'm gonna have to find them and tag that.
Yes.
And people can watch the replay, of course, right? If they can't do it live.
Yes. And there's a whole replay page that has like all the connect the dots um on there. Because
Oh,
sometimes Facebook is very confusing to find replays.
oh, how it like sorts things, it's so hard to find. So is the replay page on YouTube then?
It's on my website. So I'll make
Okay.
sure that's linked in this chat too. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Awesome. All
Oh, thank you,
right.
Stephanie.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.